They didn't laugh at Caleb Mercer because his truck was loud. They laughed because it looked poor. A faded 1989 Ford F-150 sat in his driveway with one primer gray door, rust near the wheel well, and a dent across the tailgate that looked like it had survived a war. His neighbors called it an eyesore. The HOA president called it a threat to property values. But the worst part came when Caleb's 9-year-old daughter, Nora, stood beside him and heard Mrs. Vale say, "Sweetheart, one day you'll understand why some people don't belong in neighborhoods like this." Caleb said nothing. He only placed one hand on Nora's shoulder. Then the county recorder walked into the HOA meeting, carrying the original subdivision plat, and by the time he unfolded that map, every person in that room realized the old truck wasn't parked in their neighborhood. Their neighborhood was sitting on Caleb's land. Maple Ridge Estates was the kind of suburb that looked expensive before you even reached the gate. Perfect hedges, stone entrance columns, a fountain that ran even in winter because someone on the board believed silence lowered home values. Every mailbox matched. Every lawn looked like it had been measured by someone with anxiety. And every Saturday morning, at exactly 8, Caleb's truck broke that perfection. It coughed once, then twice, then came alive with a low, tired rumble. Not loud enough to break any ordinance, just loud enough to remind Maple Ridge that not everything old was disposable. Caleb never started it early on purpose. He had checked. Local noise rules began at 7. HOA quiet hours ended at 8. And he always waited until the clock on his kitchen microwave changed from 7:59 to 8 before turning the key. That was who Caleb was. Careful, polite, too tired to fight small wars unless they mattered. But that truck mattered. Thanks for watching. It had belonged to his father. Then it had belonged to him. And for 3 years after his wife died, it became the one thing in his life that still started when he asked it to. Nora called it Grandpa's Dragon, because sometimes it smoked, and sometimes it growled. And once, when she was 6, Caleb had told her it was old enough to have secrets. She believed him. Children always believe the part adults say by accident. Their house sat at the end of Bellflower Court, not the biggest home in Maple Ridge, not even close. One story, white siding, old porch swing, a driveway patched in 2 shades of concrete. The kind of house neighbors described as charming when they were being kind, and out of step with the community when they were not. Caleb had bought it after Leah died. At least, that was what everyone believed. The quiet widower, the single father, the man with the old truck who fixed his own gutters and waved too gently at people who never waved first. They didn't know why he chose that house. They didn't know what was buried in the county records. And they definitely didn't know whose signature sat at the bottom of the original Maple Ridge Development Agreement. The first complaint came in a cream-colored envelope. Not white, cream. Because Maple Ridge did not send ugly mail, it arrived on a Thursday afternoon, tucked into the side of Caleb's screen door like a warning someone wanted him to find slowly. Nora found it first. "Daddy, did we get invited to something?" Caleb wiped his hands on a shop towel and took the envelope. On the front, in neat printed letters, it said, Maple Ridge Homeowners Association. Inside was a violation notice. Unsightly vehicle visible from street. Visible rust, mismatched panel color, and excessive age inconsistent with community aesthetic standards. Correction required within 10 days. Caleb read it once, then again. Then he looked out the kitchen window at the truck. For half a second, he wasn't in the kitchen anymore. He was 17, standing in his father's garage, holding a flashlight while his dad replaced a starter motor with hands black from oil. His father saying, "Son, some things are worth fixing because they carried you when you had nothing else." The microwave beeped. Caleb came back. Nora stood beside him, waiting. "Are we in trouble?" He folded the notice. "No, baby. Is Grandpa's Dragon in trouble?" Caleb looked at the truck. Maybe a little." The next morning, Caleb walked to the HOA office. It was not really an office. It was the clubhouse library, renamed by people who loved signs. A brass plaque beside the door read, Community Standards Committee. Marissa Vale sat at the long table with 3 other board members. She was in her early 50s, perfectly dressed in a cream blazer, with a smile that never reached her eyes. She had the calm confidence of someone who had mistaken neatness for character. "Mr. Mercer," she said warmly. Not kindly, warmly. There was a difference. Caleb sat across from her. "I got the notice." "Yes." Marissa folded her hands. "And first let me say, we understand people form attachments to things." One board member, Dennis Crowley, gave a small sympathetic nod, too small to mean anything. Marissa continued, "But Maple Ridge has a visual standard. People buy here because they expect consistency." Caleb nodded. "The truck runs. It's registered. It's insured. It's parked in my driveway." "Of course," she said. "No one is questioning whether it functions." That was the trick. She was not arguing the law yet. She was arguing shame. She slid a printed photo across the table. His truck, taken from across the street, zoomed in. The rust looked worse in the photo. The primer door looked almost white under the morning sun. "We've had multiple complaints," Marissa said. "From who?" She smiled. "We don't disclose residents' names. It protects community harmony." Caleb almost laughed. Community harmony, apparently, was when people whispered loudly enough for an envelope to arrive. "I can put a cover over it," he said. Marissa tilted her head. "That may help temporarily, but the board's concern is larger." "Larger than a truck?" "Perception," she said. There it was. The cleanest word people use when they do not want to say class. Caleb looked at the photo, then back at her. "I'll think about it." Marissa's smile sharpened slightly. "I hope you do. We'd hate for this to escalate." That was the first hook in her voice. Not a threat. Not exactly. Just a hook. And Caleb could feel the line attached to it. By Saturday, the truck had become a neighborhood event. Not officially. Maple Ridge did not do ugly things officially. People just happened to slow their walks near Caleb's driveway. A teenager on an electric scooter took a picture. 2 women in tennis skirts stopped near the mailbox and lowered their voices just enough to make sure Nora heard them. "It's such a shame," one said. "The house would look decent if not for that thing." The other whispered, "I heard he does odd jobs." Caleb was under the hood, tightening a hose clamp. Nora sat on the porch steps, coloring in a notebook. Her crayon stopped moving. She looked at the truck, then at her father. "Daddy, do people think we're messy?" Caleb closed his eyes for half a second. There are questions children ask that sound small, until they hit the place adults keep buried. He stepped away from the engine and sat beside her on the step. "No. Then why do they look at our house like that?" Caleb looked across the street. The women suddenly found something interesting in the clouds. "Some people confuse clean with good," he said. Nora thought about that. "Is our truck good?" Caleb smiled. "Our truck has gotten me to work in snow, rain, 2 funerals, and 1 hospital at 3 in the morning." Nora looked down at her notebook. "Then it's better than theirs." Caleb did not answer, because children can say the truth without knowing how expensive it is. That night, he pulled an old tarp over the truck. Not because he agreed, because Nora had stopped coloring. The tarp lasted 2 days. On Monday morning, another notice arrived. This one cited improper vehicle covering visible from street and failure to correct underlying condition. Caleb stood in the driveway holding the paper. The old truck sat under the tarp like a wounded animal. Across the street, Marissa Vale opened her front door with a coffee mug in her hand. She did not wave, she only watched. Then she lifted the mug slightly, like a toast. Caleb folded the notice and put it in his jacket pocket. He had spent years learning when silence was peace, and when silence was permission. By the next HOA meeting, the truck was on the agenda, not as Caleb's truck. That would sound personal. The item was titled, Visual Integrity and Vehicle Standards. Maple Ridge loved words that made small cruelty sound like public service. The clubhouse was full that evening, more than usual. People who never came to meetings suddenly cared deeply about visual integrity. Nora had begged to come. Caleb said no at first. Then the babysitter canceled. So Nora sat beside him in the back row, wearing a blue hoodie and holding a book she was not reading. Marissa stood at the podium with a tablet. Behind her, a projector showed photos, not of broken sidewalks, not of the fountain pump that had been failing for months, not of the drainage ditch near the west entrance that flooded every hard rain, only Caleb's truck from 3 angles. A murmur moved through the room, not loud. Respectable people do not boo, they murmur. Marissa looked toward Caleb. "Mr. Mercer, would you like to explain why this vehicle remains visible?" Caleb stood slowly. "It's my father's truck." A few faces softened, not many. "It runs," he said. "It's legal. It's on my driveway." Dennis Crowley cleared his throat. "That may be true, but this is not about legality. This is about community standards." There it was again. Community. The word people use when they want their preferences to sound moral. A woman in the front row raised her hand. Her name was Brooke Ellison. New money, new house, new smile. She always spoke like every sentence had already been approved by a lifestyle magazine. "I don't want to be insensitive," she began, which meant she was about to be. "But some of us worked very hard to get into Maple Ridge, and when certain visual elements appear, it affects everyone." She did not look at Nora. That was the careful part. She made sure the wound landed without direct eye contact. Nora's hand slipped into Caleb's, small, cold. For half a second, Caleb was back at a cemetery 3 years earlier. Nora was 6. Her black shoes were too tight. Leah's mother was crying into a tissue, and Nora had asked, "Where do we go now?" He had looked at the truck then, the old Ford parked under an oak tree, Leah's hospital bag still on the passenger floor. And he had said, "We go home." The meeting room lights brought him back. Marissa was speaking again. "Mr. Mercer, we're not attacking you personally." That sentence almost always meant the opposite, she continued. "But we have to protect the value of this community." Caleb looked at Nora, then at the screen. A blown-up photo of his father's truck filled the wall. Nora whispered, "Are they ashamed of us?" Caleb felt the room tilt. He bent slightly. "No, baby." His voice stayed low. "They're just scared of things they don't understand." Marissa heard him. Of course she did. People like Marissa always heard what could be used. She smiled. "Mr. Mercer, fear has nothing to do with it. Standards do." Then she looked around the room. "The board is prepared to authorize towing if the vehicle remains visible past Friday." The room went quiet. That kind of quiet people pretend is agreement. Caleb looked at her. "You're authorizing a tow from my driveway?" "If the vehicle is in violation, yes." "You checked the governing documents?" Marissa blinked. A tiny blink. "Yes." "You checked the plat?" The room shifted. Most people did not know what that word meant. Marissa did, and that was why her smile tightened. "The plat is irrelevant to vehicle standards." Caleb nodded slowly. "No, it isn't." That was when Dennis leaned toward his microphone. "Mr. Mercer, let's not complicate this. We all live here." Caleb looked at him. "Do we?" A few people frowned. Marissa gave a small laugh. "Are you suggesting you don't live here?" "No," Caleb said. "I'm suggesting none of you ever asked what here actually is." Friday morning came cold and bright. At 8:03, Caleb started the truck. Not to leave, just to move it 6 inches farther up the driveway. A camera across the street blinked. Marissa's curtains moved. By 9:15, a tow truck rolled through the gate. Red cab, yellow light, Maple Ridge logo printed temporarily on a paper taped inside the window, as if that made the driver official. Caleb stood on the porch with a mug of black coffee. Nora stood inside behind the glass storm door. The tow driver stepped out, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Mercer? That's me. I've got an authorization from the HOA to remove a vehicle." Caleb nodded toward the old Ford. "That one?" The driver looked relieved. "Yeah, Sorry, man, I just do the calls. Caleb did not blame him. Working men recognize other working men. The driver walked around the truck, checking tires and clearance. Then he looked at the driveway. Then the curb. Then the narrow private lane of Bellflower Court. His eyebrows pulled together. You got paperwork showing this is your driveway? Caleb almost smiled. The house deed? That helps. But the HOA says this is enforceable under common access. Caleb set down his coffee. Did they give you a map? The driver looked at his clipboard. No. Did they give you road ownership authorization? The driver looked up. Now he was no longer relaxed. Road ownership? Caleb reached into the old truck through the open passenger window and pulled out a brown envelope. Not dramatic, not new. The kind of envelope people keep because throwing it away feels disrespectful. He handed it to the driver. Inside was a copy of the subdivision plat. The driver unfolded it on the hood. He looked at the lines, then at the curb, then at Caleb. Sir, he lowered his voice. This says Bellflower Court is not HOA owned. Caleb nodded. No, it's private. Yes. The driver looked at the map again. Owned by Mercer Land Trust. Caleb took one slow breath. That would be me. Behind the storm door, Nora's eyes widened. Across the street, Marissa stepped onto her porch. Her coffee mug was gone. The tow driver folded the paper carefully, like it had become heavier. I'm not touching the truck. Marissa crossed the street with quick, controlled steps. Excuse me, we have authorization. The driver turned to her. Ma'am, not from the property owner. The HOA is the property authority here. Caleb looked at her. No, Marissa. It manages certain covenants for certain lots. He tapped the map. But it does not own Bellflower Court. Marissa's face did not change much. That was her gift. But the color at the top of her neck changed first. This is absurd, she said. Caleb nodded. It gets worse. That was the moment Maple Ridge stopped pretending not to watch. Garage doors paused halfway open. Phones appeared behind curtains. Brooke Ellison stood in her driveway with one hand over her mouth. Dennis Crowley walked down from the corner, wearing running shoes he had not been running in. Caleb looked at the tow driver. You can leave. I'll handle the invoice if they try to charge you for the canceled call. The driver nodded fast. Yes, sir. He got in his truck and drove away without hooking anything. For the first time in 3 weeks, the old Ford sat untouched, and Maple Ridge had to look at it. The emergency HOA meeting was scheduled for 6 that evening. Marissa used the word emergency. Caleb would have used the word overdue. This time the clubhouse was packed, not because of the truck, because by then a rumor had escaped. Not a clear rumor, just enough. Something about the roads, something about the land trust, something about Caleb owning more than his house. Nora sat beside him again. This time, Caleb did not ask her to stay home. Some truths are painful, but hiding them can teach a child the wrong lesson. At 6:04, Marissa called the meeting to order. Her voice was smooth, a little too smooth. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that Maple Ridge is a community built on respect. Caleb looked at the projector screen. No truck photos this time. Interesting. Marissa continued. There has been some confusion regarding property boundaries and access rights. Confusion. That was a beautiful word. It made a mistake sound like weather. Caleb raised his hand. Marissa's smile tightened. Yes, Mr. Mercer? I invited someone. Her eyes narrowed. Who? The clubhouse doors opened. A man in a Navy County jacket walked in carrying a rolled map tube and a folder. Behind him came a woman in a charcoal suit. Caleb's attorney, Dana Ruiz. The county man introduced himself as Owen Pierce from the recorder's office. He did not smile. People who carry maps for a living rarely need to. Marissa stood very still. Mr. Mercer? This is highly irregular. Caleb nodded. So was trying to tow my father's truck off land you don't own. A sound moved through the room, not a gasp. Maple Ridge did not gasp. but the air definitely changed. Owen placed the map tube on the table and began unrolling the original subdivision plat. The paper spread across the table like a quiet verdict. Street names, parcel lines, drainage easements, common areas, the entrance road, the retention pond, the clubhouse parcel, all of it drawn in ink that did not care about anyone's opinion. Owen pointed to Bellflower Court. This lane is held by Mercer Land Trust. Then he moved his finger. So is the West Drainage Corridor. Another finger movement. The old service access behind the clubhouse. Then the entrance median. Then the fountain parcel. Then the maintenance easement running behind lots 17 through 29. Brooke Ellison whispered, "That can't be right." Owen looked at her. "It is recorded." That was all he said. 3 words. No drama. Just the kind of finality that makes expensive rooms feel cheap. Marissa looked at Caleb. "You own some common parcels?" Caleb shook his head. "No." Dana Ruiz opened her folder. "Mr. Mercer controls Mercer Land Trust, which retained ownership of the original development parcels, private roadbeds, drainage infrastructure, and declarant rights not transferred to the HOA." The room went silent. This time, not polite silent, real silent. Dennis leaned forward. "Declarant rights?" Dana looked at him. "The developer rights." "Developer?" Caleb finally spoke. "My father developed Maple Ridge before it was Maple Ridge." For half a second he saw his father again, boots sinking into mud, rolled survey maps under one arm, telling a young Caleb, "Don't ever fall in love with the fancy houses. Land is what remembers." Caleb looked around the clubhouse. After he died, the trust stayed quiet. The HOA managed appearances. I paid what the trust was obligated to pay. I didn't interfere. He paused, but quiet is not the same as absent. Marissa's face had gone pale. Not enough for sympathy, enough for math. Dana slid several pages across the table. Over the past 6 years, Mercer Land Trust has subsidized multiple Maple Ridge expenses. She turned the first page. Fountain pump repair. Second page. Snow removal deficit. Third page. West drainage emergency after the 2022 storm. Fourth page. Clubhouse roof insurance gap. Brooke whispered, "He paid for that?" Dana looked at Caleb. Caleb said nothing. That was answer enough. Nora looked up at him. "Daddy?" He squeezed her hand once. "Not now, baby. Not yet." Marissa recovered faster than most people would have. That was why she had power, not because she was right, because she could keep standing while wrong. "Well," she said carefully, "if Mr. Mercer has been involved financially, then perhaps he should have disclosed that relationship." Caleb nodded. "There it is." "What?" "The part where you blame me for not bragging." A few people looked down, because the sentence landed exactly where it needed to. Marissa's voice cooled. "This still doesn't change the fact that residents expect standards." "No," Caleb said. "It changes who has authority to enforce certain standards on certain property." Dana turned another page. "And it changes liability." That word did what Caleb's truck never could. It scared everyone equally. Dana continued. "The attempted tow was ordered from a private driveway connected to a private roadbed not owned by the HOA. If the vehicle had been removed, the association and individual board members could have faced claims for wrongful towing, trespass, and interference with property rights." Dennis swallowed. "Individual board members?" Dana looked at him. "Yes." Suddenly, standards did not feel so warm. Then Owen cleared his throat. "There's one more issue." Marissa looked like she wanted to stop him with her eyes. It did not work. Owen pointed to the map again. "The current HOA office expansion plan overlaps the service access easement." Dennis frowned. "What expansion?" Brooke turned toward Marissa. "You said the office renovation was already approved." Marissa's lips pressed together. Caleb looked at Dana. Dana opened another document. "The board requested bids to expand the clubhouse administrative wing." Caleb looked at Marissa. "Across my easement." Marissa spoke carefully. We believed the easement had expired. Owen shook his head. It has not. The room became very interested in Marissa. Caleb leaned back. He had not come to humiliate her. That would have been easy. Too easy. He had come to stop her before she turned a truck into a lawsuit and a neighborhood into a courtroom. But Marissa had brought her own shovel. Dana placed one final page on the table. This is a notice of cure. Marissa stared at it. Dana continued. The HOA will withdraw all vehicle violation notices against Mr. Mercer. Reimburse any costs related to the attempted tow. Provide written clarification to residents regarding road ownership. And pause any construction or renovation plans affecting Mercer Land Trust property. Dennis looked at Marissa. Can they do that? Dana looked at him. They can do it voluntarily, a beat. Or we can do it formally. Nobody asked what formally meant. Everyone knew enough. For the first time, Marissa looked at Nora, not with kindness, with calculation. Then her face softened. A performance. Sweetheart, she said, none of this was ever meant to embarrass you. Nora did not answer. She only looked at the projector screen, where the map showed the street she rode her bike on every afternoon. Then she said, "Then why did you take pictures of our truck?" The room went completely still. Children do that sometimes. They walk straight through language adults hide behind. Marissa opened her mouth. No sentence came out clean enough. Caleb looked down at Nora. He had spent 3 weeks trying to protect her from shame, but maybe what she needed was not protection from the truth. Maybe she needed to see that shame could be handed back. He stood. I don't want anyone's house value hurt. His voice was calm. I don't want fights. I don't want revenge. And I don't want this neighborhood to turn into a place where children learn that a dented truck makes a person smaller. No one moved, Caleb continued. My father built this place when this land was soybean field and mud. He kept that truck because he used it to haul steaks, tools, lunches, and once, my mother to the hospital when I was born. His voice caught. Just a little. When he died, I kept it because it was the last thing I could still fix. Nora looked at him. So did everyone else. I parked it in my driveway, Caleb said. Not in front of your homes, not on your lawns, not in your way. He looked at Marissa. But somehow, it became easier to shame a widower's truck than ask why a grown man still needed it. That sentence did not explode. It settled, slowly, like dust after a door closes. The vote was not dramatic. Real consequences rarely are. The board table whispered. Phones were checked. Bylaws were opened. Dana answered questions in a voice so calm it made panic look embarrassing. At 7:42 p.m., Marissa Vale withdrew the violation. At 7:47, the board voted to suspend vehicle aesthetic enforcement pending legal review. At 7:51, Dennis Crowley asked if the HOA insurance policy covered individual board actions. Nobody answered him. At 7:58, Marissa stood again. Her face was composed, too composed. Mr. Mercer, she said, on behalf of the board, I apologize for any misunderstanding. Caleb looked at her. Misunderstanding? Her jaw tightened. Nora looked up at him. Caleb could have punished Marissa with one word. He could have demanded a better apology in front of everyone. But he knew Nora was watching. And children learn not only from the justice you demand, but from the kind of person you remain after you win. So he said, I accept that you're starting there. Marissa blinked. It was not forgiveness. It was a door left unlocked. She could choose whether to walk through it. After the meeting, people approached him differently. Not warmly, not yet. Respect often arrives before kindness. Brooke Ellison came first. She held her purse with both hands. I didn't know. Caleb nodded. No, she swallowed. I should have. That was almost an apology. For Maple Ridge, it was a confession. Dennis avoided him entirely, which was probably best for everyone. Owen rolled up the plat. Dana clipped her folder shut. Nora stood beside the old map, staring at the lines. Daddy, she whispered. Do you really own all this? Caleb looked at the room, then at her. No, baby, she frowned. But they said, I own pieces of it. Important pieces. He knelt beside her. But owning land doesn't make me better than anyone. She looked toward the board table. Then, why did they act better? Caleb smiled sadly. Because they thought looking expensive was the same as being valuable. Nora thought about that. Then she said, Grandpa's dragon is valuable. Caleb nodded. Very. By Monday morning, the truck was uncovered. Not polished, not repainted, just clean. Caleb washed it before sunrise, bucket beside the driveway, steam rising in the cold air. Nora helped with a sponge too big for her hand. At 8 sharp, he started the engine. It coughed once, then settled. Across the street, curtains moved again. But this time, no one came outside with a phone. At 8:12, Mrs. Alvarez from 2 houses down walked over with a plate of banana bread. She was 72, quiet, and had lived in Maple Ridge longer than most of the people who like to say standards. She looked at the truck. My husband had one like that, she said. Caleb smiled. Did it run? Only when it wanted attention, Nora laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in the driveway all week. Mrs. Alvarez touched the hood gently. Your father was a good man. Caleb looked at her. You knew him? She nodded. He knocked on every door after the first storm, checked basements himself. Caleb looked down at the hood. He had not known that. Some legacies are not loud. They wait until someone stops insulting the object that carried them. 2 weeks later, Maple Ridge changed. Not completely. Places like that do not become humble overnight. The fountain still ran. The hedges stayed sharp. Brooke still wore tennis skirts to get mail. But the HOA newsletter changed one sentence. Under community standards, it added, enforcement must be consistent, documented, and respectful. It was not poetry, but it was progress. The clubhouse expansion was paused. The drainage ditch near the west entrance was repaired. This time, the HOA paid for it. Not Caleb, Dana insisted. Caleb agreed. Quiet help is still help. But quiet help should not become permission for other people to act powerful with your money. Marissa Vale resigned as HOA president in November. The official letter said she wanted to focus on family. Nobody believed that. But Caleb did not smile when he read it. He folded the paper and threw it away. Not every consequence needs an audience. One afternoon, after school, Nora came home with a drawing. Not of a princess, not of a house, not even of the fountain. It was the old Ford. She had colored the primer door gray, the rust orange, the headlights yellow. And above it, in uneven letters, she had written, Grandpa's dragon belongs here. Caleb stared at it longer than he meant to. His eyes burned. Nora tilted her head. Is it bad? He shook his head. No, baby. It's just true. He taped it to the refrigerator, right beside the old violation notice. Nora frowned. Why are you keeping that? Caleb looked at the notice, then at the drawing. So we remember the difference. Between what? He smiled. Between what people say something is worth and what it really carries. That Saturday, Caleb took the truck out. Nora sat beside him. The windows were down. Cold air moved through the cab. The bench seats squeaked every time they turned. As they passed the fountain, Dennis Crowley was trimming a hedge he did not need to trim. He looked up. For a second, he almost looked away. Then he gave a small nod. Caleb returned it. Not because Dennis deserved it, because Caleb did. At the gate, Nora looked back at Maple Ridge. Daddy? Yeah? If we own pieces of it, can we make a rule? Caleb glanced at her. What kind of rule? She thought seriously. No making people feel poor. Caleb's hands tightened around the wheel. That would be a good rule. Can you make it? He smiled. I can try. The truck rolled out onto the county road, past the stone sign, past the fountain, past the perfect hedges that suddenly looked less important than they had 3 weeks before. For a while, they drove without speaking. Then Nora leaned back against the cracked vinyl seat and whispered, I like this truck. Caleb looked at the road. So do I. Because it's old? He shook his head. Because it remembers. And for the first time in years, the old Ford did not sound tired. It sounded like it had been waiting. People will shame what they cannot measure. They will laugh at the old truck, the small house, the worn shoes, the patched jacket, because it is easier to judge the outside than ask what something has carried. But value is not always polished. Sometimes it has rust near the wheel well. Sometimes it coughs before it starts. Sometimes it sits quietly in a dirt driveway while everyone else forgets who built the road beneath their feet. So if this story reminded you of someone who keeps showing up without needing applause, give them respect while they can still hear it. Because the things people mock most loudly are often carrying more history than they will ever understand.